Hello everyone, welcome to the daily news protocol of the Hindu newspaper analysis contributed by Vishnu IS Academy. Today we are going to see the news articles for the date 12th May 2022. We are having very interesting discussions for today's newspaper. Let us have a look on all those articles. Our first topic to be discussed for today is regarding the Sedition Law. What is the Sedition Law? From last week onwards, from 5 days ago, we are seeing this news about the Sedition Law. In this regard, let us see what is the sedition. Specifically, what is the sedition? It is nothing but any speech or expression or conduct against the government, that is specifically regarding the union government, is nothing but called as sedition. Okay, and also it gets power under the 124 section A of IPC, which was enacted in the year 1860. As you can see here, the year, the 1860, it is of the Colonial Act. It is framed by the colonial governments of British. Why? Because to suppress any protest against the government, the British government has incorporated this section under their penal code. Okay, and from then onwards, the IPC, as IPC is in circulation under the Union government as well, the Sedition Law is still in existence in the Indian government. Okay, and also if someone is found guilty of speaking, writing or representing discontentment or hatred and the contempt against the government, contempt not against the court but contempt against the government of India will be punished by it. So all these powers will be given to the government to punish any citizen, any person of India under the Sedition Law. So in this regard, if you can see some concerns regarding this, in recent days, the Sedition Law is in a sense that government may misuse this law. So in that regarding our Ministry of Home Affairs informed the Supreme Court to re-examine and reconsider the Sedition Law. And in a historical verdict, the Supreme Court recently, in yesterday's session, the Supreme Court has put an hold on the Sedition Law. Supreme Court has announced to stay the Sedition Law, the implementation of the Sedition Law. After so many of outrages and the protests and the discussions, this outcome is very much useful for all the citizens, so that the freedom of speech of each and every citizen that was promised under the Constitution of India can be given to them by the authorities of the government of India. And also, if you can see the concerns over it, the freedom of speech can be prohibited under the Sedition Law, and also it can be misused by the government. So hence, to curtail those freedoms of the government, the Sedition Law has to be stopped, and it has to be stopped to implement that law in the India. And also, if you can see any previous scenarios, the famous freedom fighters like Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi were also punished under the Sedition Law. And it helps to curtail any anti-national terrorist and Maoist insurgencies. Okay, if this Sedition Law is being implemented with the proper precautions, with proper limitations, it can help to curtail some anti-national movements like this. But the government shouldn't go forward to use this, to misuse this Sedition Law. And if we can consider any other terms, other terminologies which doesn't come under the Sedition Law, nothing but the any hatred, any administration, any comment or administration without any hatred and contempt or disaffection will not be considered as an offence under the Sedition Law. Why? Because it is not having any hatred against the government. One person is just commenting on the government, but it is not under the consideration of the word called as hatred. And also, we often hear the word hate speech. What is the hate speech? Hate speech is different from the sedition. Here, the sedition is nothing but provoking and commenting rigorously and showing hatredness against the government. It is nothing but the contempt against the government. That is called as the sedition. But coming to the hate speech, it is nothing but promoting enmity between different groups. It is not regarding the government, but it is promoting enmity between different groups, so that creating some communal differences and communal misunderstandings. Okay, so that it is not under the section 124A, but it is under the section 153A of IPC. But will it come under the defamation of any person? No. Defamation is the civil suit. It is different from the penal suit. Okay, that will come under the civil suit. It is nothing. The defamation is nothing but the creating any abusive offence against any person or any entity or against anyone. Okay, that will come under the defamation. But here the hate speech is different from either the defamation and the sedition. Okay, and also under the National Crime Record Bureau, the NCRB, almost 356 sedition cases were registered, and under the 124A, and almost the 548 people were arrested between only the span of the 5 years. And if you can see some cases under this, the Disha Ravi and the Kashmiri students case. See, what happened in the Kashmiri students case is that few students, after watching some world cricket, they have supported the well performed Pakistani cricketers, and they put that in their WhatsApp status. So considering that as an act against the government, those students were arrested. Is that really the crime against the government? No, right? So that's why to stop all these misusage of the sedition law by the government, it should be curtailed. That is the recent verdict given by the Supreme Court. And also, if we can see the government objective now, as we are in the celebration of independence of 75 years, and also as we are in achieving the objective of this to protect the sovereignty and the integrity, the government is fully cognizant of various views regarding sedition and also considers concerns of civil liberties and the human rights. So, it will be the main objective of the government to achieve such a freedom for human rights. So that the very first move of the Supreme Court to curtail and to stay the implementation of the sedition law is a very welcoming step. Okay, after learning all these things regarding the sedition law, let us move to the next topic, that is regarding the fall of the rupee. The value of the rupee is being fallen in recent days. What is happening here? It is nothing but the depreciation. It is the all-time low of rupee value was being recorded internationally. And if we see the reasons for this, the concerns over weakening global growth. Because of the concerns over weakening global growth, the value of the currency is depreciating. And also one more reason for that is that outflow of the dollar. The reduction of the forex reserves of Government of India are going down, and the dollar's outflow is going higher and higher. And also fears of further monetary tightening by the RBI and all. So considering all these things, the value of the currency is going in a risk. So that's why the value of the currency is going into the depreciation. Try to focus on the word depreciation. It is not the devaluation. Let us see the difference between these two terms in coming discussion. And if we can see the reasons for this, for the sell-off. Here the immediate reason is nothing but the sell-off of all the global equity markets. It is the immediate reason for the depreciation of the currency. So if we can see the reasons, the hike in the interest rates by the US Federal Reserve. Recently, US Federal Reserve has hiked its interest rates. So that led to the sell-off of almost majority of the global equity markets has resulted the depreciation of the rupee. And also the war in the Europe, we know all the issues regarding the war, and also the growth concerns in China due to COVID-19. All these international and global scenarios have led to the depreciation of the rupee. Okay, now let us see what is the difference between the words depreciation and the devaluation. The currency depreciation is nothing but the reduction of the value of the currency. But who will reduce the value of the currency? under the concept depreciation, the market system, it will force to decide the value of the currency. So, if the market scenarios are at risk, at high risks, that will automatically show impact on the value of the currency. Okay, so it occurs in floating exchange rate system where the market will decide the value of the currency. So that's why if the market scenarios are fluctuating, that will automatically show some impact on the value of the currency. So as we are in the risk of the higher and shrinking market economy internationally, it is resulting in some rupee depreciation. That is nothing but the currency depreciation. If we can see the consequences of that, it increases the country's exports. Of course, yes. Why? Because the goods and services in the country will become cheaper. Right. So that's why the value of the goods and services of our country will be cheaper while considering the market, international markets. Okay. And also if the central government wants to control that scenario, the falling down value of the currency, it may intervene by implementing some open market operations and also tightening the monetary rates. Okay, that's how the central bank can control that scenario, but it cannot regulate it completely. Why? Because it is not in the hands of the central bank. It is fluctuated automatically depending on the market scenarios. What is that? The currency depreciation. Now let us see the devaluation. What is it? It is the deliberate downward adjustment. It is deliberately done by the government of a country. Under the depreciation, government is not doing anything here, neither the central bank. But here in the devaluation, the country itself deliberately will adjust the downward movement of the currency. Why? Why? Because so that to increase the exports and to reduce the costs of the exports. Let us see, the government issuing the currency decides to devalue a currency. Devaluing a currency reduces the cost of country's exports and can help shrink the trade deficits. If a country is in a deficit, is in a trade deficit, to overcome that issue, the country can deliberately reduce its value so that to increase that country's export regime, so that it can get higher forex reserves, higher foreign dollars, so that its trade deficit can be fulfilled and compensated. Okay, to achieve those deficits and targets, the country at few times will deliberately reduce its value. Have we any examples like that? Yes, we have. Like Zimbabwe, Brazil and Italy, when they are facing the trade deficit, they have deliberately devalued. Notice the word here, the devaluation. They devalued their currency. Okay, so that is the main difference between the currency depreciation and the devaluation. And these two are different. The depreciation occurs when a free floating currency loses value. Okay, we have discussed that. Under the devaluation, a government does this by adjusting the fixed or semi-fixed exchange rate. Okay, so exchange rate of the currency will be decided by the government so that to boost its exports. At the same time, foreign products become more expensive, so imports will fall. It will be one of the consequences resulted by the devaluation. Here, the government is focusing to achieve, to overcome the trade deficit or any other deficits of the country. It will focus on to increase the exports of that country. Okay, they will overcome that loss, but as a consequence of that, if it is prolonged for longer time, it may result in the fall of the imports. We should notice this as well. Okay, so we have to notice all these points. Considering this, the devaluation should be conducted under some overlook, under some restricted conditions only. It cannot be implemented always. Okay, so after learning all these things, let us move on to the next topic, that is regarding the Rabindranath Tagore, the famous personality, Mr. Rabindranath Tagore. In the year 2022, we are celebrating the 161st birth anniversary, as he born in the year the 1861. The May 7th can be celebrated as the birth anniversary of the Tagore. In this scenario, as here he is a very famous personality right from the times of the freedom struggle, we have to learn something, some facts regarding him, as we expect some questions regarding him in our exam. Okay, he is a multi-talented personality. He is a writer, poet, playwright, and the choreographer, and the aesthetician, and the music composer, whatnot, and painter. He is a very multi-talented person. And also he became very famous in his writings, and also he founded an educational institution called Vishwa Bharati. Okay, Vishwa Bharati is very much famous at that time to provide free education even to the girls. Okay, it has promoted that type of education. And also he wrote the national anthem, the Jana Gana Mana of India, and also Amar Sonar Bangla. It became the national anthem of Bangladesh after getting independence. Okay, and also the first Indian, he is the first Indian and the first non-European to get the Nobel Prize for his poetical right, the novel Gitanjali. For the novel Gitanjali, he got the Nobel Prize, and he is the first Indian and the first non-European personality. And also he renounced. Actually, he was given the title knighthood for his acts and in all his fields by the British government. But as a protest against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, he renounced his title, the knighthood. Okay, it is also very much important. And also he started the festival called as the Rakhi, tying bands to increase the friendliness and the friendship and the brotherhood among the two protesting communities, Hindus and Muslims. He started the Rakhi Utsav. Okay, all these are the prominent acts done by the great personality Mr. Rabindranath Tagore. After learning all these things, let us move on to the next topic, that is nothing but regarding the Asani. Cyclonic Asani. In recent days, we are experiencing some cool weather and cool breezes, right? As we have seen the heat waves in the last month itself. That is because of the occurrence of the Asani in the east coast of the India, southern part of east coast of India. We can experience the Asani in the coastline of Odisha and AP, Andhra Pradesh. Okay, in that scenario, let us see what is the cyclone. Cyclone is nothing but the heavy accumulation and heavy strong accumulation of the breezes and the winds, so that to cause the heavy downpour. It resulted because of the low pressure area. The centered low pressure area will cause the winds to swirl around it either in clockwise or in anti-clockwise. It will form a huge huge structure to create some downpour, heavy downpour with huge amounts of the winds and all. Okay, if in that scenario, if we can see the directions of the cyclone rotates anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere. It is very much important fact to be noticed. And also the cyclones are in clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Why it was resulted like that? Because of the as result of the Coriolis effect of the globe. Because of that, the directions of the cyclones in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere will vary. Okay, and the World Meteorological Organization will have the authority to name the nomenclatures. How the word Asani was given to this cyclone specifically? Have you ever thought that? The naming of the cyclone will have some framework, will have some structure. The names will be proposed with by the all other nations, and these names will be composed into a manner by the WMO. So that's why the WMO will propose some 6 such lists considering all the recommendations by all the nations. The cyclone the World Meteorological Organization will decide the names of the cyclones. They will be decided by considering the names of the list of the countries. So 6 such lists will be given by all the nations, and they will be given by the WMO. So these are all the topics to be discussed by today's discussion. After seeing all these interesting sessions, let us meet in another interesting session tomorrow. Thank you.